All right, so who's heard about Hybid? Not the Toyota, but everybody, right? Exactly. So let's go through what a hybrid, how do the hybrids kind of interact with each other, and what are the advantages and when you might consider them. So the advantages are that you can get the best of both worlds, really, in some ways, and that you can combine the ability to take on investment in your for-profit company with the ability to take on donations and grants in your nonprofit. So that kind of ties into the access to funding. And you can also take on more activities that are both exempt and non-exempt. Now, there's generally two ways that hybrid organizations can be structured. Obviously, we're talking here about two different entities that exist. Some people talk about benefit corporations that we just talked about as a hybrid. While it's true in that they have a hybrid mission, when we're talking about hybrids, we're talking about two different organizations. And they can be sort of brother and sister in that they are operated mostly independently with some relationship between the two. It can be an agreement between the two. It can be co-founders who operate this, similar programs. Alternatively, it can be a parent subsidiary relationship where, generally speaking, the nonprofit will be the umbrella organization, and it will start and operate a for-profit company underneath it. Now this, as you can imagine, especially when you consider all the rules around the IRS and what they require in exchange for your ability to not pay taxes, this presents a lot of challenges. So there's governance issues. When you're operating two different companies, obviously it's, especially as a early stage company, there are significant challenges in being able to manage and operate two different companies at the same time. Doesn't mean that you can't overcome those. We have clients who operate two different entities at the same time. There are also challenges with sharing resources. So one of the things that Ryan was talking about nonprofits is that you have to do everything for the public good. Everything has to be charitable. Well, if you're sharing resources between a for-profit and a nonprofit, the for-profit company, which is private individuals, private owners, they get some benefit out of that relationship, right? So that creates a conflict of interest. That creates private benefit that you have to navigate very carefully around. So that's why it's important to maintain arm's length space and distance between the two organizations. You'd want to make sure that the board of the nonprofit is operating independently from the for-profit company, and that if there are any transactions between the two, so one common transaction that might come up a lot of times for us is, the nonprofit company will sort of initially put some money into the for-profit company, right? Well, that's giving money to the for-profit company, and it's a private benefit. So in order to actually get that transaction approved, you have to have a part of the board and the nonprofit who's totally independent, knows about the conflict of interest, and clears that conflict, right? Then it can be okay. Similar to that, if you're sharing resources, for example, or if you have a licensing arrangement. So another common example is, a nonprofit company, similar to the one that I was mentioning, has some proprietary software, right? Like they've developed technology. They want to give that to the for-profit company to be able to then use it, commercialize it, and sell it. Well, that's a license, right? And you're giving something of value to the for-profit company. So again, there's a conflict of interest. It has to be cleared, and it has to be approved by disinterested members of the nonprofit board. So there are a lot of challenges that do come up with hybrid organizations legally. And I don't want to say that it's super easy to set up a hybrid organization from the start, especially as a very sort of lean operation with only one or two founders. But they can be navigated, and you just have to be careful about them and have to think about how to do those from the start.